John,
Angie.
how do you keep the music playing with long-term clients?
Well, it's not simply hitting repeat. The real challenge is making sure the depth and transformation keeps pace with the coaching relationship.
Ah, if only it were that easy. But one thing is for sure, when we have clients over long periods of time, sessions can potentially become stale as day-old bread. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a dangerous place to be for both the client and the coach. But the good news is there are practices that can help you avoid that danger zone and keep the work fresh and impactful.
Ooh, this sounds like the perfect segue into today's recording. How to keep things fresh with long-term clients. Shall we?
Yes, I think we shall. It's very formal, Miss Angie. Do you have royalty coming over for tea or something?
John, I just can't with you.
Welcome to the Coaching Clinic with John and Angie.
The show for professional coaches who want to develop their skills and grow their business.
Follow the show on your favorite podcast app.
And join us every Wednesday for new episodes.
This is something this topic, I think, was born from something we just naturally said in one of our previous recordings. And it came to mind because you and I are really, I don't want to say lucky, because I think we do what we do and people are hiring us or staying with us repetitiously because of what we do and how we do it. But we recognize that's not always the norm, and challenging because if you've got a client for 6, 8, 9, I think you have a client for 10 years or something now, right?
A bit longer, I think. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
It's longer.
Well,
okay.
There was a client I had with me for about 11 years, and he's not with me anymore. He stopped his coaching when he retired. But yeah,
and I think there's so many things that can happen to the dynamic of that relationship. And I have a couple of ideas, but before I get into that, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges of kind of what we're saying, keeping the music playing, meaning we want to keep it fresh, we want to keep it impactful, relevant. How do you do that over years, right? From day one, when you don't know the person and everything is novel, to 11 years later? Obviously, you did something right because they stayed with you for 11 years. And I doubt it was because you kept them comfortable.
I have had a bunch of clients who have stayed with me long term. That was probably the longest one. Yeah, there were reasons that he definitely stayed with me, but I think it was more the habit in that kind of situation. But certainly clients who I've had with me for longer, any clients I've had with me for more than 3 years, I consider to be long-term clients, so 5 years, 7 years. And that has been, or between 5 and 7 years has been more of an average for long-term clients to have stayed with me, which I think is great. And one of this almost feels this could be Esther Perel giving some bedroom advice here, but shaking it up is really one of the keys to keeping things fresh. We have to keep our coaching relationships for as fresh as hopefully our intimate relationships.
Sure.
We want to shake things up a bit, try some new things. And if we're not working on our growth, and this is the one thing that I have found to be most valuable to me as a coach on my coaching journey, is to keep growing and developing myself as a coach, to keep learning from the people who I think have skills or understanding that I don't, or that I would benefit from. Yeah. And being able to incorporate at least elements of those things into my own coaching that allows me to bring new things to my clients and make their sessions that bit fresher. So I think that's been, for me, one of the key things, where just make sure you keep growing so that you have those things that you can bring to your clients that say, all right, we haven't talked about that before. This is a fresh approach.
I definitely think that's it, right? First of all, I think it does need to begin with us, because as we are learning, I don't even know, like for you, if it's super intentional that you hear something, it's even a book, it could be a phrase. Sometimes for me, it's a simple word. And all of a sudden something clicks for me and I'm thinking, I need to really bring this in. It doesn't matter like from where it's coming, but definitely formal education or just what happens in the daily life of a coach. I think it's really important. My peers talking with you, things that really keep us fresh. That's definitely a big first piece for me. The second thing for me, my mom always said this, had said this phrase, familiarity breeds contempt. And I think one of the things that I really work hard at because I think right now, like my longest client, I still have this person. I think maybe it's almost 8 years. And it is absolutely, and let me be honest. I've observed it occasionally making sure that they don't just get on the phone. Hey, old friend, let's have a cup of coffee. And I've noticed at times, which is what brought me to this awareness, is that this person might get on the phone sometimes and say, oh, well, let me tell you, and it's 20 minutes about the week or life, or I did this and I did this and I did this. And I'm like, no, right? I know that that's not how I want. Maybe that works for some of y'all, but not for me. So that I have that awareness of how these sessions are going, but really not allowing for too much familiarity. Our clients they naturally, when you work with them over a period of time, they naturally become curious about us as humans. And I do believe in giving some things away, information. Are you married? They know, my clients know I'm married. They know I'm a mom, but they don't know, here's my home address. And it really has to be a limitation. They know I live now in Arizona. I don't have any issues with that kind of thing to create. They need a little bit of that bond over a period because the relationship changes. But we still, and you've heard me say this, and I think any of my clients that might be listening, and I know there are some, you have to keep that plexiglass there, right? So they can still see you, right? But they can't get so close that they can touch you. And that to me is the illustration of what the relationship should look like. So you really need to keep that familiarity at bay, no matter how long you work with them. You're not inviting them to Thanksgiving dinner. And if you are, probably shouldn't be. Just saying. Okay.
There would have to be exceptional circumstances, I think. There are situations where I imagine that could happen and you could still keep it within the professional boundaries, but it is exceptional circumstances. And certainly shouldn't be to a point where you are encouraging a level of familiarity that takes you outside of the coaching relationship. The same reason you probably shouldn't really coach your friends or family. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to see them for their highest potential because you have baggage with them. They have baggage with you as well. And they may not take you so seriously. But one of the things that I talk about often in speaking is about how when you are in the public eye to some degree, we're not talking about being celebrities here or anything, but there are coaches who have gone that path where you are in the public eye, at least on social media, at least with maybe speaking events, maybe podcasts and other things. There is a level to which you can't just put everything out there and say, all right, this is me, good, bad, dirty laundry, all of it, skeletons in the closet. Here's everything in the name of authenticity. You will damage your credibility. And what Aristotle in his rhetoric called ethos, your credibility is the people's ability to trust you and have confidence in you, confidence in the source. And if you damage that confidence, if you damage that ability for them to trust you or see you in that light, you damage that relationship. And so there has to be this curation of how we project ourselves to the public, to our clients, of what we actually share with them. Because I think there are elements of our lives we can share without crossing those friendship boundaries that give them still some insight into who we are, but don't say, come on in, you're in the inner circle. Does that make sense?
And I think, it makes a lot of sense. This question has come up for me because I never thought about it. And my coaching career started live and in person. And in the way it started, it was with people that I interacted with every day. And I just became the business coach, the professional coach. We worked for the same organization. That's my training. All of my early years were in that space. But when I actually was transitioning into a coaching business, I was taught by a couple of companies that I was working with. We know I've worked for companies as a coach. And I was taught, you don't meet with them. You don't give them preferential access to you. And interestingly, since I was taught that, I have met coaches that are, oh, one of my clients is going to be in town and we're going to have a cup of coffee. And my immediate and I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, because I know friends of ours might listen to this and go, Angie, what did you just say? You were talking about me. It may not be you, because I've had this many times. And listen, in the back of my mind, though, that red flag goes up and says, wait a minute, cup of coffee. We're meeting up because you're not going to sit and coach at a Starbucks, if you will, over a cup of coffee. You're going to be, how are you? How do you love it here? This is so great. Look at how cute you are. I didn't know you. Some of my clients have seen me on camera. Some of them only know me by what they see on social media. So,
Right.
And I like it that way. So me personally, and I've had clients that are, Angie, I'm going to be in Arizona. Can we meet? And I say no. I just don't do it, because I feel like there's something in that dynamic that is going to change the outcomes. It's going to create some kind of familiarity to them, with them, for them in our relationship that I don't want to be there. It doesn't mean that I can't still have successful coaching with them, because who knows, they might feel even better and more trusting of me. I personally don't believe in it. However, post-coaching relationship, after years, I've had people say, hey, Angie, and they're coaches now, they've started their own companies, let's meet. I then consider them a colleague, and it's very different. I'm okay with that, because that's sometimes just how you meet people in a business. But you know what I mean? I just, do. Yeah. Have
There's
you had that?
Yeah. And I think there's something important in what you say there, because there's a reason why college professors aren't allowed to date or fraternize with students. There's a reason why psychologists and psychiatrists aren't allowed to date or fraternize with their clients. Kind of the same for us as well. There's an imbalance of power in the relationship.
Yeah.
And just in terms of, they are the person who has essentially come to you to help them figure out what they want to do. You are in the more powerful position.
Yes.
You can still be, all right, we're equals, but you are the authority. You are the person with the expertise, with the ability that they've come to for that help. You have authority in that relationship. So I can definitely understand when you say about connecting with people who then become coaches years after you coach them, that balance, power balances then become, right, we can meet as equals.
Yeah.
Which is much, much more sensible. But yeah, I think one time I met a client for a coffee in the UK, in Kingston, in London. And as it's only because she was there with her boyfriend and she knew I was there. I said, hey, look, come and meet up. I'd just to meet you in person, because we had never met in person. And so I thought, okay, that's fine. We did have a coffee. We didn't get into personal chat. And she wanted me to meet her boyfriend as well. Super nice guy. And she just told me what she was doing. It was really not a conversation that crossed any of the boundaries that I would have wanted to make sure that I keep as a coach. But at the end of it, I thought, was it really worth all that just so you could actually see me in person?
Sure. Yeah.
Was it worth it? I don't know. I don't know that it was.
I had a situation where I was working for a coaching company out there, and there was a big event that the company was putting on, and it included not only the coaches for the company, but it was a big seminar, big event also for clients. And I will never forget, at the time, I had 20 or 25 clients of theirs. I probably met 6 of my current active clients were at the event, and it became a question. I was like, hey, these people are asking, Angie, you're going to be there. Of course I'm going to be there. I work for the company. And they were like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet you. I'm coming from Israel. I'm coming from California. I can't wait. And I've had to bring it up. I'm like, wait a minute, because I also felt in that circumstance, if we're going to be in this giant ballroom at this event for a 5-day or 4-day event, I cannot avoid them. I don't think it's good practice or good business in that scenario. So I said, hey, how do you guys feel about this? And they were like, listen, use your judgment. Okay. So what are you wearing? I'm here. Show me. I'm this and that. And they hugged me and, oh my gosh, it's you. Honestly, it was a little uncomfortable because they were like, oh my God, it's Angie. And I was like, it's just me. Because we didn't coach by video. That company, we coached over the phone. They didn't know me. So to see me in person was very uncomfortable for me. But one of them, I will tell you, and how are you? Can we go and have lunch together? And I'm like, I'm going to be sitting with the coaches. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I had to with this one because she was like, let's meet up after. Let's go to my room. Let's hang out. And she was awesome, great person. But I finally had to say, I really can't do that. And butt hurt, feelings hurt, complained about it. Thankfully, I didn't have to handle that. And they had to explain, hey, this is our policy. Your coach is following our policy. But as a human, I felt this is why I don't want to meet my clients. For this kind of client who's going to be upset and hurt and feel rejected by me because I'm not willing to cross the boundaries between this and that. We talk now, by the way. Right now we talk. Which is good. We're connected. But at the time, I was so uncomfortable, John.
These boundaries are generally unspoken, though. And I think that's one of the hardest things with it. They are boundaries that you kind of put in place, and you can keep them in place easily because of generally the nature of how we run our coaching operations. But they are for the most part, unspoken until they have to be spoken. Until we have to say,
you know what? Ask you, though? Do you ever have clients ask you a question like that they just forthright? They just go, hey, John, what did you do this weekend? Or something direct where they're inquiring about you even. And they put you, why are you laughing? What?
Because, of course I have. Of course I have. I've worked with hundreds of people over the years. And I generally will say, hey, look, I had a very nice weekend, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here for a different purpose. So let's get into that. So I will shift it back and just remind them, hey, this is a professional call. And I've never had a problem with that. And I've rarely had to use it. It has come up, but it's been rare. I just say, I've just left the city for a bit. I'll say something very casual, but I'm not going to give them detail. Yeah, we got out of the city for a bit, went to the countryside, went to a lake. It was very nice. How about you? How was your weekend?
Yes. I was just going to say that. If somebody says, oh, how was your holiday or how was your weekend? Oh, it was wonderful. Were you with family? Yes, I was with family. I was with friends. It's my happy time. You know, I love to cook, and people see my videos. I put cooking videos out. So they say, I saw your video. I didn't know you love to cook. I thought you were just a coach. And I'm like, no, cooking is what I do when I'm not coaching. I'm not just this linear, one-dimensional being. But anyway, so I'm with you. I do believe that giving them something to make it feel a little bit more personal without getting personal. I'm not telling anybody, oh, yeah, I had the biggest fight with my husband this morning. And God, can you imagine? Never. I've heard, you're laughing. I have heard coaching doing that, though. What?
No way, really? You've heard coaches do that?
Yes, I'm kidding you not. When I was training coaches, I've heard coaches say, oh yeah, I work up, when you have cramps, and I'm like,
that's nuts.
I'm on the line going, what the actual crap?
Hey, look, I've heard of coaches getting a little bit inappropriate with some of their conversations before. Certainly I've dealt with those issues working in larger coaching companies from time to time. But I've also definitely have come across coaches who don't seem to be able to shut up about themselves and will spend the whole coaching call talking about themselves as well. And so the client will come away. I've even experienced this with a coach as well. You end up coming away thinking that wasn't even a coaching call. All we got out of that is, I know we now know more about you, but what do you know about me? Where was the coaching? Yeah, that stuff is out there, but I've always figured people like that aren't going to make it long term in the industry.
No, they would probably be successful. And I'm saying this when I say a low-level client, I just mean people who have maybe never experienced coaching before, or a good coach. My favorite people to coach are people who have already had coaching before, because they do have some kind of baseline or experience.
Absolutely.
So when I come in, it's not that I'm the messiah of coaching, but 9 times out of 10, it's a very different experience for them. And I get great feedback from it. But your point is very valid that,
I think most of us prefer not having to explain how the coaching relationship works, I think. But Kanile, and I ask you a question. Have you ever had the situation with a client who's been with you for a long time, where the red flags are coming up in terms of where you need to shake something up, or maybe it's time to draw this coaching relationship to an end?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I have clients renew with me, I make it a necessity conversation, not a sales conversation. And this is honest. I know people are going to go, oh, you're full of shit at the business. But honestly, ask any of the clients who have ever worked with me, whether for myself or other companies, when we're getting close to the end of the relationship or the rounds of coaching that they've purchased, I will say to them, let's do a review. What have you done? And what do you want? What do you feel most challenged by? Because I feel through the relationship, as they are experiencing growth, that brings them into a new place. It's almost, I feel like there's always something, even if we go back to the same topics, we can still shake things up and make it different and not make the same questions. Well, remember we talked about this. Well, how do you feel about that now? You have to remain, I think the big tool that I use is I'm always curious from a new space, even from week to week with them or whatever it is, bi-weekly. I think that is really tough to do. I think that's really tough to do after years. But sometimes, right, if we're familiar enough with our clients, that can really work to our advantage. I think reviewing. So think about this. I don't know. Do you take or give notes when you coach people, John?
Yeah, I share my core notes with clients. Yeah.
Okay. So what I do as a coach is I kind of do the halfway mark with them. And then at the end, I'll just go focus on the end. I will say to them, here's what I'd like you to do before our final session. And I'm going to do the same. And I literally will go back to the beginning and I read through the notes because we can only focus on so many details at once, especially if we're working with multiple clients, by the way. I love reading the story of the client through those notes so that I can come to this and even in my mind, set some kind of direction and say, so what value would you get if we moved forward? What do you feel you need now? You came in looking for X, Y, and Z. This is what you let them share with me what they observed. They love that, by the way. They love going back and reading that story of them. And I think how I coach is never going to change. No matter how long they're with me, I am who I am. How I shake things up, I think, is dependent upon keeping that eye on this is where it was. And these are new challenges that developed as a result. And not trying to work, not being a therapist, not trying to solve the problems that are not solvable, right? Because it is therapy. I don't know. That's the first thing that I do, though. I love to do that review over time to go back. I think when we first meet with people, we have the big chunks of challenges. And I think as time goes on, new big challenges may come as well, new big challenges. But looking for those little granules of sand, the things that weren't as important in the beginning, there's always granules of sand. In fact, that's the predominant space why I've been able to work with clients for years, because there's always that little pick.
Yeah. Look, there's a few things that come up with that. I think one of the first ones, and this is more of a comment because the other one's a question for you as well, but more of a comment on this is I've definitely had clients who've been a bit at some point where you're maybe having those sort of coming up to renewal sort of conversations saying, I feel like I don't know if I really need to continue with the coaching, or they've got nothing left to talk about. It's all right. Your life must be perfect now. I guess that's job done. We can tick the box. Yeah. Everything is great, right? Well, no, because it is. Not everything's great. So there is stuff to work on. And so we want to get into that conversation, whether it's with me or with someone else. If you don't want to carry on working with me, okay, find someone else to work with. But no, let's not pretend that there's not still stuff to work on. It's generally just a way to try and get out of an awkward conversation, what they think is an awkward conversation. But have you ever had people try and avoid those conversations with you because or whatever reason or another, they just don't want to have that review or renewal conversation with you?
Yeah, I would have to say yes. And unfortunately, it's sad to say, I feel for the most part, a lot of that resistance, if you will, is financial. I
I
really
agree.
never had
Agree.
anybody come and go, I don't want to look and review me. Everybody loves themselves. They want to know about themselves, right? They want to take a different perspective. So that's never the challenge. It's okay. So, and I'm not that salesperson that's, well, what's the cost of not continuing with me? I will not have that kind of conversation. I had to
Yeah.
do it with certain companies that I worked for. In my own practice, absolutely not happening. So I have a way to talk to people about that, but I want it to genuinely be
Ye-
about them. And I think the resistance, although I have had such a small percentage, maybe 1% of clients that, because we are actually making progress and one of their challenges is success, they resisted. So I have had that happen in that scenario, but most of the time, I'm being very honest, in my experience, it's been more of resistance because it's more of financial investment. And that, unfortunately, is always a question mark for people.
Yeah. No, where it's been possible, I have gone back to people who've avoided that conversation and just said, hey, look, can I just ask, did you just not want to have that conversation, or had you
Yeah.
already made the decision and didn't want to say
Yeah.
what's going on? There's no pressure or anything from me, but it would be good for me to know, just for my benefit and for going forward into the future. The ones who did respond would generally say something along the lines of, I didn't want to get on the call because I thought you would convince me to stay in coaching. I thought you
Convince
would.
you.
Yeah. I
Yes.
thought you would sell me into more coaching. I didn't want
Yes.
to be persuaded to it. And yourself, I am not that guy.
Yeah.
For me, and again, you could ask any of my coaching clients. I will say that even ones when I worked for companies where I was supposed to do that, I still would to a degree. I would still have a very honest conversation with them about the only reason you should ever renew your coaching with me or with anyone else is because you're getting value from it and you want to stay in it.
Absolutely.
If there are financial issues that are stopping you from doing that, have a strategy that can help you manage that going forward if you want it. But if the issue is that you don't actually want to continue with the coaching, that's okay.
Do
But
you
that
guilt
should really
them?
be,
I'm going to
do I
say
guilt
this.
them?
Yeah, because I've listened, not the dumb question. Sorry, folks. I know John doesn't guilt anybody, but even when you work maybe for other companies, sometimes I think that there is this push to go, well, there's this way that the words are twisted to make it, to shame them into not wanting, oh, so you're perfectly okay with where you are and you don't want to grow anymore. That's what you're telling. It's a really bad practice. And when people would renew, I'm shocked. I was like, really? I don't know. But do you know what I mean?
No, I mean, it's fair enough based on what I said before. Oh, so life's perfect now. No, just because I want to get to the real reason, but I'm not going to use, even then I wouldn't use that as to be, well, you should stay with me. I don't want somebody to stay in a coaching relationship that they don't really want to be in or that they felt pressured to continue. I don't think that's healthy
weaponize
for
people's challenges to get them to work with you. That's, I think, what I'm trying to say. It's terrible practice to do that.
I want them to try and be honest about what's going on for them, but I do not want to, as you say, weaponize that against them. And I certainly have known coaches who will have no compunction about doing that, saying, oh, you don't want to, you certainly in the initial stages, oh, you don't want to work together. I guess this isn't really a problem for you after all. Oh,
I'm opening the idea, though. I'm being honest. Anybody who ever talks to me, family, friends, clients, staff clients, I'm a believer in coaching. Coaching to me it can be forever. But I'm going to tell you this, folks. So as a coach, the longer you coach clients, the better you need to be as a coach so that you are still providing great value for them. But with that being said, because that's my mindset, that's my intention as a coach, I believe wholeheartedly in what I do. It's not just an occupation for me. So when I get into a relationship with people and they sign on and I say to them, so let me just set a couple of expectations. I'm sorry, I'm a coaching geek. I love coaching. I believe everybody could be in coaching forever and ever and ever. Obviously, that's not my expectation of you, but I don't ever want you to feel like this is it. There's always more to be done. But that doesn't mean that the work we do during this specific or structured time isn't going to be enough for you for right now. I literally close the door and open the door at the same time. I take that pressure off of them so that they're more focused on the outcomes of what's happening than oh, what? Now she's going to sell me? Oh, I don't want to do that because it's been done. Everybody who knows me knows I do not like to be sold to. Even if I love the boots in the window, if I walk in, don't try and sell me the boots. If I ask for them, let me try them on. And if I love them, don't tell me, oh, girl, those look so cute on you. I'm not buying the flipping boots now. You pissed me off and you ruined the experience for me. Take them back, even though I loved them. That's me. So you're laughing, but it's so absolutely true. So I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I'm
the same. Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think most people like being sold to it. I think people are more resistant to it now than ever before, more aware of the things that people do in order to get that, more aware of how flattery or persistence can sometimes be used, or shame or guilt, as I've already mentioned. But let me ask you, I think we have some identifications about some of the things you might want to consider or look out for that might be showing a bit of a coaching rut or a bit of staleness in the coaching relationship over time. But when it comes to freshening things up or revitalizing that relationship, what would you do? What actions do you take with your clients?
I think it's just different tactics, different curiosity. Because again, I coach the way I coach. So I think even for somebody, I think the longer we coach, the more routine. It's like driving a car, right? When you first learn to drive a car, you're very aware of, oh, the windshield wipers are here. We're very aware of specifics. But then very short time after that, we get into the car and we don't have to think about things. We're not doing a checklist. So I do think, and we talked about this, right? Giving ourselves some analysis at the end of every session. I don't want to say to you that I use a specific tool. I don't go, ooh, let me go to this. This isn't. It's really about keeping that freshness in my mind about me, not allowing it to become mundane. You know, I don't know how to exactly explain it, which is kind of terrible for this, but it's really me doing that self-analysis, which is what brought us to this topic today. And being able to say, I don't think that if I listen to a call that's recorded, or I do that self-analysis after each, or that assessment after each session, one of the things that I am aware of, and I do question, so maybe this is a good tool actually. Look, it shows you just how familiar I've become, but I do this. Did I challenge enough? And was I curious enough? So I think that if I can maybe keep those two things fresh, and I say no, if the answer is ever no, could I have asked more? That I think is how I might get that out of, or keep it out of the space of becoming stagnant, day-old bread, stale, day-old bread.
So listener, if you felt you could have put that better than Angie, we are accepting applications for a new co-host of the show.
What is wrong with this man?
No, I completely agree with what you said, Angie. And just to maybe add on to that as well, I do think that I'm not going to change how I coach. I hope I can always bring new things in that keep things growing and developing and working with the clients. I want to have conversations that make sure they're getting the value out of it. I don't want to I've discovered this new coaching technique and I must try it in a session just for the sake of trying to keep things fresh, because you're probably not going to continue. You will end up reverting back to what you usually do in your coaching sessions anyway at some point.
Yeah.
It's just going to feel a bit gimmicky to try and do those things. So you really want to carry on probably coaching as you are coaching, but making sure that that is actually working for both of you in that situation and in the relationship, that everyone's getting what they need out of this.
Listen, one of the things, and I don't want to start a whole new conversation, I know we're at the end, but one of the things that I do challenge people with is asking them at the halfway mark, how can I be more challenging for you? I always ask that question. I even send out a midpoint survey to clients just to get a feel. And I tell them, be honest, brutally honest. Angie's not bringing her game. I felt more challenged in session 1 than I did in session 8, whatever that is. And I tell them, do not worry about hurting my feelings, but don't also use it as just a way to rant. This is constructive feedback because I want to show up better. And one of the questions on the questionnaire is literally, I forget how I actually worded it, but how can I be more challenging? Where do you feel you need more challenge in our sessions? When you ask that question, a lot of people might go, oh, it's fine. I know I need to come at them harder just because of the way they answered. but give them an opportunity to assess and think about the challenge of, or how they feel they're being challenged, because it's different for everybody. Telling somebody or showing somebody they can clean their bathroom, which has been a problem for somebody, you're laughing, but that was a true story for me as a coach.
Yeah.
And then actually wiping the spittle off the sink and the shower, I mean, not shower, mirror, was a huge step. You and I might go, really? But again, that's where objectivity comes in. So challenge is going to change based on the client as well, not straight across the board. Different people need different things at different times.
Yeah. Well, if it helps you, Angie, I find you very challenging. So yeah, that's...
You are going to get... You're so lucky that you are not in the U.S. and not within arm's reach right now, Mr. Speed.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Let me just say this for the record. John has been busting my chops since we started chatting this morning. I just wanted to tell you all that. Just saying. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm feeling very impish today. I
you
apologize.
Are.
Playful. I think we've.
People.
Yeah, we'd definitely love to hear from you. What are your thoughts or ideas about this? Have you had long-term clients that things been going stale? Have you felt that you need to keep them there longer, or push to keep the relationship going maybe longer than it should? Or maybe you have other ideas or insights about this than we do. We certainly love to hear them. But I think we've, as best we can, we've done some justice to the topic today, and we'll be back next time with more from the Coaching Clinic.
Do you have a question for the Coaching Clinic?
Reach out on LinkedIn to connect with Angie and John.
Leave us a voicemail or video message and we will feature you on the show.
You can also leave up to 90-second voicemail for free on www.speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast.
We'd love to hear from you.
See you next time.
Bye for now.